Riley and Andrew sat quietly watching the countryside as the jungle pressed close and silent beside the lulua. The trees opened to the sky above, which boasted lazy white clouds floating in the blue. This was only her third time on the river, but the terrain had never felt as oppressive as it did now. "Do you feel that?" she asked her fellow doctor. He lifted his chin up to allow the gentle breeze to hit him in the neck to ease the unrelenting heat. "That breeze feels great." "No, not that," she said, shaking her head. "The jungle. It's quiet. Something feels off." He cocked his head. "Huh, I didn't notice it. But now that you say something, it does feel different than normal." Andrew had lived among the Congolese for 2 years. She'd only been in country for 4 weeks on assignment from the CDC to investigate reports of a potential outbreak of Ebola. The 2002-03 outbreak in the Congo had been the deadliest strain in history, with a 90% death rate. So any time the virus was mentioned in the war-torn country, the World Health Organization responded immediately. So far, there had been no evidence of any type of viral hemorrhagic fevers, including Ebola, in the small villages along the Kasai River. But they had identified something that afflicted a few members of the local population. They just didn't know what it was. It was some type of compound that neither of them had seen before. It attacked the brain and altered the victim's mental state, making them extremely aggressive. Of the 5 villagers who'd contracted the disease, all had died. And now, the jungle seemed to be warning her that something else was wrong. "What do you think it means?" Riley asked. "I don't know. I've never heard the jungle go quiet before. But to be fair, it's just background noise to me now. Like the L in Chicago when I was a kid. Hardly noticed it, but tourists thought it was loud as hell." Maybe that was why she'd been able to tell the difference. The jungle sounds weren't background noise to her yet, and she would probably leave before she became accustomed to them. Before this, she'd been in the heavily populated slums of Prague investigating concerns of a false plague outbreak. If nothing presented itself soon regarding the feared Ebola outbreak, the CDC would recall her. Then, she could go anywhere for her next assignment. The boat ran around the bend, and shouts of alarm from the crew made her whip her head around so fast that a jolt of pain traveled down her neck. "Oh, ow!" she exclaimed, reaching up for her neck. Andrew glanced her way, but quickly turned his attention back to the front of the boat and pointed. The village." Riley massaged her neck as she tried to see what had happened. The scene before her didn't make any sense. Where there should have been 54 wooden huts, there were only charred black remains. Everything had been burned to the ground. Here and there, faint, white and gray smoke drifted from the ashes, meaning the fires had been out for a while, several hours at least. As the boat motored closer, she could make out skeletons. Hundreds of them, of every size. Young and old alike had been put to the torch. Riley covered her mouth to keep from crying out. "Oh my God," she mumbled. An arm settled over her shoulder, and she leaned into Andrew's chest. "Who would have done such a thing?" Andrew made a noise in the back of his throat, as if he were trying to clear away his own grief. "Any number of groups could have done this," he said. "The real question is, why did somebody do this? These people weren't harming anyone. They didn't get in the way of some big mining corporation." He trailed off. "What is it?" Riley asked, looking up to him. "All of my work," he replied. "Philip said they took blood samples from the medical tent, right?" "Yeah. He said they killed Sarai and then took the samples. He didn't say anything about your computers." Andrew gestured mutely toward the smoldering remains of the medical tent, where he'd stored his research. "I know it was your life work, Andrew. But these people—" "I don't care about the damn thesis, Riley," he barked. "We had hard data on those patients. It wasn't Creutzfeldt-Jakob, but it mimicked a lot of its properties. I never got any of the test results completed before we had to go to Kinshasa. It's all gone. Whatever this was, all of our research is gone." A cold lump settled into the pit of her stomach, despite the heat. "It was a hit," she surmised. He nodded. "I think somebody in the capital heard our description of the disease and decided to take matters into their own hands."